Hello there, I'm Vinitra, the CEO and co-founder of Scholé. Now, to understand why we created Scholé, the answer is simple. In our field, which is AI for education, for the past 10 years, there has been this dream of what learning could be, that we could create lessons that were perfectly right for you, that each problem, each little chunk of content, each little video was personally curated based on your tools, your tasks, your desires, the way that you would like to learn at the right difficulty level for you, at the right competency for you, and the right pace for you. And more than all of this, there were many principles of how to do this. Self-regulated learning, mastery learning, knowledge tracing. All of these things have gone towards this ecosystem and essentially this dream of what personalized learning could be. But until about 5 months ago, we didn't have the technology to make this experience actually exist. And I'm not talking about a chatbot here, where you can go and ask a question and try to learn something. I'm talking about something that actually has a curriculum that you can regulate, but something that builds towards skills, that has essentially a way that we can model skills and show your progression through certain skills and measure mastery and competency. That it can be based on materials that you find trustworthy, that are from professors that maybe you like. And more than all of this, it is something that grows with you, that the tool itself learns the more it teaches about how better to teach both for you and for other people. And so that's what we've been trying to build at Scholé. And Scholé actually is an ancient Greek word that means leisurely learning, learning in a relaxed way with your friends via discussion or fun. And the reason that it's not one chatbot, it's an intelligent tutoring system. It's a series of agents that are working together to comprise the exact right lesson for you. And what I mean by agents that work together is something like this, where we thought about all the different roles that might make sense pedagogically from our work in learning science as well as the intersection with AI, and then grouped them into different pedagogical agents that interact with each other, all trying to find the right recipe of lesson that works well for you. That for me might be video heavy, and for you might be podcast heavy. For someone else might be interactive tasks, and you can ask for an analogy when you want it, an application when you want. It's essentially how you would like to learn. And behind the scenes, we're using generative UIs, we're using hierarchical memory, multimodal learning, a lot of very, very interesting things that I would love to talk about, so shoot me an email. But without further ado, I will show you what we've been up to. So let's say you're a new user called Product Hunt, and you want to learn AI or data science, but in your context, using your tools and tasks at the right level for you. So let's say, for example, that I work over at Microsoft, and maybe I work in marketing. So in this case, we have some context about Microsoft. Of course, if it's a group or organization that we've partnered with, we have a lot of their videos, slides, information, context, etc. And you can set up all kinds of guardrails. But let's say, hey, what is my role or job title? Let's say I'm working in marketing or in operations. I work for Coca-Cola or Trader Joe's. Any company should work, so give it a try. And then we have a definition of our role. We can change it. We could say, hey, I only work on Azure. Okay. Now we want to identify the right tasks and tools to personalize our learning experience. So what do I do on a daily basis, and how can I make sure that each little block of content is referencing those? So maybe because I'm in marketing at Microsoft, I'm using Azure Marketing Insights and LinkedIn Ads Manager. I could say, hey, I use Figma, or I use Cloud Design. But let's say I've added Figma to your tools, etc. Now the second part of this is, how do you like to learn? Right? You personally might have certain preferences of how you would like your lessons to be. I would like them to be heavy on interactive tasks. I like explanations more than videos. I like podcasts. I want it to be energetic and warm and calm. I have this specific learning goal. I want my ideal session lengths to be really, really small. I'm really bad at automation, and I want to be an expert. And in fact, I really want to become an expert at agents. Okay. You can do all of this via chatting as well. Now, of everything that you could learn about AI, and this is just a first use case, there's a lot of different ones you could learn with Scholé, but we're trying to figure out which parts actually make sense for you. So maybe automation, Gen AI and agents, data science, and within that, we have hundreds of different lessons. This is based on a knowledge graph of content from our favorite professors. We've teamed up with the Harvard Data Science Initiative on their agentic AI initiatives, which have been named by Forbes recently as the #1 way to master agents in 2026. So it might be worth checking out. And here we have an explainable recommender system. So, hey, based on your tools, based on your tasks, we think that if you were to learn agents with Zapier or Make.com or N8N, it would be interesting for you. But you can overrule it. And this is always our ethos, that the AI should suggest, and the learner should still have freedom to do what is important and relevant for them. And you can always reorder this. For example, you could get the learning journey that makes sense for you, and it's really important to us that you know why this decision was taken. So maybe you want to start with an intro first, etc. And now you have this learning path. So maybe you wanted to start with an intro, then go to prompt engineering, agents, data science lifecycle, etc., and you can add other courses. You can also create your own courses on the fly. So for example, hey, I want to learn about how agents can self-validate each other. I specifically want to learn about how to use AI within Canva. And you can have a lesson like that. But let's say we go back to the learning journey, and what we want to learn about is agents. So we start learning. And we start with the learning goals. So these are actually the goals that we're trying to measure that you can do by the end of your lesson. And we actually try to force you to read it. Why are agents actually important for you? And this character you see in the corner here is Scholé. It's one of our agents. In fact, the main one. And you can imagine Scholé, ole, like let's go. And it's motivating you to carry on. Now, as opposed to something like ChatGPT, we do have a curriculum, essentially a lesson plan that you can skip ahead in and go forward. And these are basically remixing trustworthy materials. You can also ask on demand from any of these guys. The projector character, you could get a video. You can get examples or analogies. You could get questions from Zeteo, interactive tasks, etc. And this is in the context of your tools, for example, Azure, Power BI, LinkedIn, because you are caring about campaign management as part of your role as a marketing person. We generate these kind of explainer videos, which are also available in multiple languages on the fly, and some of them are pre-cached. And you can do this entire thing as well as a podcast. I'm going to move myself to the corner here. You can do this as a podcast. You can orient your learning in different ways. Maybe you just want exercises, so you want it to be a drill. Maybe we assess right now that you're probably an intermediate based on what you said, but you want it to be easier or you want it to be harder. This is actually, behind the scenes, much more nuanced, but we kind of grouped it into 3 different categories. You might want, let's say, an open question. You can always do any of this via audio, etc. And this is what I mean by generative UIs. We're able to kind of create these interactive tasks on the fly. So maybe, hey, in the context of an Xbox Game Pass campaign on LinkedIn, you want to deploy an agent. So what should I start with? Maybe review yesterday's static report. Well, maybe you want to look at real-time data. So you don't want to wait until tomorrow. You want to adjust the bid from which you want to swap the copy via API and observe. And we can see some adaptive success. And you could say, hey, I didn't understand that, and get actually some more explanation about why this was the case. Why does this make sense in the context of your Xbox Game Pass ad? And based on this assessment, we are trying to understand what learning makes sense for you and continually update your model such that the next chunk of content is relevant for that. So this is a bit the lesson delivery experience. But what else can you do on Scholé? Well, of course, at the beginning, you could say, hey, recommend me some new courses. Hey, explain this to me. And when you say explain this to me, it refers to my AI coach. So maybe like in the context of my job, where can I use agents? Well, it's in the context of the tools, the tasks, the competencies that you've had, and can actually guide you through like, hey, on Zapier, I can actually do this one thing to connect this to this to this to this. And this connects back to your learning. What do you want questions about? Maybe you want an actual agent, you want to go to the agent's lesson, but maybe you want a lesson on this. Maybe you do actually want to continue in this specific way. All of this builds to our notion and our knowledge of what you know. There's also a notion of my creation, so you can kind of create lessons that are specific in a certain way, ground it on certain materials, attach it to your company knowledge base, so you can actually understand all of these wikis or these 100-page PDFs in ways that make sense to you. And more importantly than that, we have a sense of progress. So, hey, this is the knowledge graph of content. This is the way we're explaining knowledge tracing. Essentially, we've grouped it into slightly buckets, the way that we're estimating your skills, such that even though you and maybe your friend have totally different questions, we are assessing competency in a unified way. If you're curious about this, we have some papers on it. You get some badges, and importantly, you can ask any question you want to your data about your learning. Where should I focus next? What am I doing well? What kinds of learning actually helps me the most? Do I mostly like multiple choice, or what kind of learner actually am I? And this evolves over time as well. Now, if you ever need to change your skills, your profile, you can always go back and change these over in the onboarding, etc. And we have a lot of ideas about learning in the flow of work. So stay tuned. We'll probably be releasing a lot of stuff soon on Product Hunt and beyond. But if you're interested in a team that feels extremely passionately about what learning can look like in the age of AI, that's us. We're a spin-off of UC Berkeley and EPFL, and have luckily teamed up with Harvard on these new agentic AI intensives. And we hope that you find it useful and interesting, and more than anything, what we value the most is feedback. So if you have some feedback for us, we would really appreciate it. But this is our vision of what learning can actually look like. Thank you.
Never looked so good. Never looked so